All right, we're out here today on the farm, and I am having take two on this because the video I just made, I did 15 minutes and then it just cut out on me and it messed up the video completely. So, the things that happen sometimes with technology. And I guess with that technology, we can either do great things or we can destroy things, And I think this is the video that's definitely going to be labeled the insanity of big agriculture. Just touch on a couple things that I've observed, as well as just kind of, the being up to date on the current, scientific information. And, a lot of the things that we all, I think, know and what a lot of us are transitioning to with our organic practices and wanting to take better care of the planet and the things that we consume, not being detrimental and such like that to our surroundings, the soil and such like that. So, this video is definitely going to serve as a good example, I think, of the insanity of big agriculture. And the first part we're going to touch on just this split here. And, with the talk on the climate and, the rising CO2 emissions and the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere and such, this is the first point of this video here, is that here is the example for everyone to show, where some of that CO2 in our atmosphere that's warming the planet is coming from. And it's from these farmers tilling, this 50,000 or so acres, who knows? I mean, there's way over there and way over there. There's field everywhere surrounding us, which is, kind of nice because it shows us a lot of, what conventional methods, as well as, beliefs that people have had, and believing that they were true and that it was the right way. It was just wrongful teachings, that we're seeing on this half, compared to new knowledge, new wisdom, at least for our time, which I don't think any of this is anything new, or, it's nothing. The wheel was not recreated here, essentially. This was practices that have been around for centuries, as well as, when you think about it, nature's been doing nature for billions of years here. And I'm more inclined to think that nature knows a bit more when we observe, than we kind of do, especially with the kind of our egotistical minds and wanting convenience and such like that. So that's where, the convenience aspect kind of leads into, why we do monoculture and such like that, for profit, not just for profit and such like that, but, it's the convenience and promoting other businesses as well. I think, that kind of harbored that. But it also comes down to self-responsibility, because we all have a choice in the way that we conduct our businesses, the way that, we live and conduct our lives in general as well. We all make the choice, and we're all, self-responsible for our choices that we make in our lives as well. And before I fumble more over my words here, I just wanted to make, this first point here is, we've got this one side, dispensing or dispersing carbon, CO2. And on this other chunk, we've got this side absorbing CO2 and putting it back into the ground. And I know there was some comments on the last video, and I'm sure there's other people that think about, some of these things on some of my videos as well about, that these are weeds. And I'll just make the point with a little bit of sarcasm here, that I know these are weeds. I know that most of out here is weeds and that we don't like weeds technically, but That honestly actually is where I do disagree with things, because as far as just, we want to take out the weeds, and no, the weeds are a symptom. That was something that I learned from a seminar about regenerative agriculture. Weeds are a symptom of a sick soil. And where do weeds, weeds pop up in places, like we got out here, where there was just, hardly any organic material, very little nutrients. So when you think about weeds take up very minute nutrients out of the soil, and they have just very little demand overall. Think about that. You don't have to really pay attention to a weed. Weed just grows. Whether you water it or whatever you do, smush it a little bit. I mean, weeds just grow by themselves. And that, I think, because we also have a mix of the wheat from last year as well, too, that got mixed in. So that'll be nice that all that will reseed and start, kind of repropagating. So then we can essentially just keep coming out year after year and plucking wheat seed. And I mean, that's feed for the goats as well, too. So that's the first point here. We've got the tilling, and I think that's the other thing. I'm trying to keep my thoughts together here on what I'm trying to talk about, but that's the other thing with the tilling that they just did. We went through all that record rain, the last couple weeks here. I'm sure everyone's seeing all the news and stuff like that, with all Yellowstone flooding and all the flooding with the rivers and such like that, bridges collapsing. I'll leave it to you for watching all those news pieces. Otherwise, I'll leave it up to you to as well look up things that might help empower your life and your living standards, and moving more in the direction of what your morals are and values as well. Because these are the values that we hold here, is that we want to do things more naturally and organically. And, just kind of getting back on track here, after that, all that rain, that they sprayed, so they essentially killed all of the plant life that was even growing out there. And then they tilled right after the rain. And now we're getting in these 80, 90-degree days. How much you want to bet that this soil is just going to be bone dry, by the end or by the beginning of next week even. I mean, even coming over here, all this stuff was fucking moist. And look, it's just dry nonsense. Just dry. I mean, I can dig a little bit underneath here. There's a little bit of moisture. Yep, there's a little bit in here. It's a little bit muddier. But that's underneath. Look, the stuff that they are intending to fluff up, all that's going to dry out. And that's the thing. What sense does any of this make when you're killing off the organic material and then you're going to till? It's the insanity of big agriculture here. And I think that's just something for us to kind of observe, and as well just for myself to point out, because what we're doing is definitely very similar to what they're doing over there. As far as preparing, the soil and whatnot, the monocropping, different story. We want diversity here, and that's what we've got right now. We've got different kinds of weeds, we've got wheat, different kinds of grasses. That's nature. Nature is diversity, and it's diversity for a reason. The point of spraying insecticides and whatnot, because of all the bugs and trying to keep the production level high, and the loss, at a minimum. And that just shows right there, from my observation, that's an imbalance. I think anyone can come to that conclusion as well. That's an imbalance in our system when we have to be spraying the insecticides and whatnot that we are, and pesticides, frankly, for all these things that affect, the whole crop. And, it's only a problem because it's a monocrop. We're only planting one freaking crop. So if one thing gets a disease or the insect likes it, you can bet your bottom dollar it's going to like everything else out in that field, because everything is similar. And that's the problem that you run into when you don't have diversity, because what we've done here is brought the diversity back, And what we're seeing is we're seeing a lot more birds now, even flying out in this field. I hear crickets out here for the freaking first time, I think, ever. And that's, I mean, freaking cool. Usually there's just crickets over by the house and stuff, and you can hear them. But to be out in this field and to hear, and look, even a little moth flying around. I saw a honeybee the other day. I've seen a couple ladybugs out here as well. And that's what have we essentially done? We've brought in our own, so to speak, insecticide. We've brought in the other nature that feeds on those other, insects and things that affect the plants. And that's bringing back the balance of nature, because that's how nature works. And that's kind of the thing. We need every bit of, every little bit of nature like that, because even the bad stuff has its place. Mosquitoes have its place. Flies have its place. Look, I see a couple ladybug flying over here. I don't know if anyone can see. But let me get back on track, because this is what we're doing with the goats. And yeah, I mean, it looks a little decimated, kind of. The goats fed on all of that, which that's no problem. Those are all weeds. Everyone hates the weeds, right? So we've wiped out all these weeds, but look what we've done in return is not just the stalks that are left. They've stomped a lot of the stuff that they didn't eat. And all of these roots that were growing from these weeds, that's one thing to think about. For weeds in our certain area, that's why we don't want to destroy or kill off the weeds, because these weeds are serving a very specific purpose, not just for jump starting and getting the soil, back in balance, essentially. The precursor to everything else that grows in the forest and prairies and whatnot. The weeds always come first, because they don't need they're very self-sufficient, you could say. They don't need a whole lot of stuff. They don't need a lot of water. They don't need a lot of care. They just grow. And for the most part, all these weeds that are out here are super important because of the clay compaction that we have out on the property. We have a very high compaction on our property, of the soil. There's a very kind of small, only a couple inches, I think, of actual topsoil that we have out here. It's very thin, and then it's hard packed clay. So, what those weeds are doing, those weeds are driving their roots down through that compacted clay and soil. And they're actually helping break it up. And then when we have the goats come through, they're going to eat all of that, and all that stuff is going to die off. And those roots that are in the ground are going to die off as well. And they're going to create gaps for other roots to go down into, for water to gather and to hold into the soil as well. And that's the whole point of rotational grazing is, it's a controlled, it's controlled grazing. We're keeping so many in a certain area. These guys are pooping and peeing everywhere and putting nutrients back in the soil. They're eating the weeds for food, so we don't have to feed them. I mean, look at all this forage that we have. This is all food for them. So that's the thing, I think that's one observation we all can kind of think about for ourselves too, is that, what does happen when we start to take care of nature a little bit? I think when we kind of make some thinking happen in our minds here, I think it's easy to start thinking that, this promoting nature is the way, because if we're aiding and promoting and rejuvenating nature, increasing its vitality, pushing it to its best, so to speak, without, chemicals and whatnot. I mean, this is. I mean, we don't need to have chemicals and all that stuff, So we've created the diversity, as well as we've essentially created our food source for the goats, which trickles down to us when we come to butcher whichever goat, for meat, and or quite for milk too as well, since we've got our couple males and our females. So milk and meat, and for the cost of rotating them, moving that gate. And the positive for myself is that I get a little bit of a workout too. So strength training, it's a 24/7 fitness out here. I don't need to pay for a membership. Especially if you wrestle him a little bit, he'll give you a good workout. But this is what we like to promote, and this is, I think, what we're trying to show is how this does affect everybody, and how this not it just affects us, but also just the whole cycle that goes on here, and how everything basically works out and balances itself in the end, when we put in a little bit of effort and a little bit of work into nature. And we have good thoughts about it as well. We're trying to promote, we're talking good. I talk to my plants. I come out here and talk to the nature and tell it it's doing a great job. So this is definitely prime. Well, I don't know about prime example, but it's this is just awesome for myself, and to see just all this green out here for once, and to hear all the nature, the crickets and the birds and the bees and all that good stuff out here, and to look right over and see just the insanity, and the change that needs to happen, and granted, it took us 6 years to get the property, this part of it bordered off. But that's where we all, as self-preservation comes in. We needed to take care of ourselves first. We needed to get ourselves set up and established, working on ourselves, working internally. So now that we've worked somewhat internally, now we're able to work outwardly a bit more, and utilize the property as best we can, without doing too much damage and whatnot, I guess. So I'm kind of getting to my ramble point. So I think I've kind of come down with all of my thoughts and my information that I've gathered here. But yeah, this is just the documentation of what I wanted to make out here today. I do want to get back to the Earthship stuff, because a lot's been going on up front. And besides me saying billions of times on this video and stuttering, there will be plenty more videos that I actually do want to make a video in the next couple days here of up front and what's kind of going on, because yeah, we've got electrical being hooked up and stuff. We've got this guy over here building his big ass greenhouse and a couple other structures, bunch of nonsense. But I wanted to come out here because they had just tilled this field. They were just spraying, and yeah, I just wanted to make some of these notes, because this is the insanity of agriculture on this side. This is, the direction I think that we all need to be going right here, and really actually truly thinking about this, and truly taking action, because it is our self-responsibilities. And I didn't need the government to come out here to tell me to take over this field and start restoring it. It takes our own self-responsibility. It takes our own self-due diligence. It takes ourselves to really think about things, and what we can do for ourselves, as well as our community and our surroundings, especially to express, what our values actually are. Are our values just about talk? We want everyone to hear us talk, but we don't want to listen to anybody else. No, I don't think that really flies, and that's not how we make progress forward. Progress forward is coming together, and all of us realizing we all have common ground. We all have a lot of commonalities in the things that need to change in this world, and the future that we all definitely want to be a part of. So, but we're just out here on our little chunk of land, doing our thing, trying to promote nature. And this isn't to put us on a pedestal. This isn't to make anybody feel guilty. That this is just information. And if it stirs feelings in yourself, to me, and from my own experience, that's a reflection of people's own personal problems within themselves. If they have issues like that, because honestly, the point I'm at in my life, hearing more information about, how the destruction of things, what we can do better, all that stuff, it doesn't make me negative. It drives me to think about solutions. And I think that's a challenge for everybody to work on for themselves, is to not be so much in the negative and complaining about how bad things are and the issues we have. And we definitely need to be promoting more about solutions and actually taking action with like-minded people and other individuals and such. And as well as, doing our part where we live, on, wherever people live, kind of thing, where your space is, take responsibility. This is our chunk of land that we own and whatnot, and we're trying to do our best to take care of it as best as we can, as well as manage it as best as we can. And this is something we can do right now, and it didn't take very much. All these goats were free. We adopted all these goats. So, that's where there's a will, there's a way. And where there's definitely determination and persistence, that is going to lead the way to progress. And, having that optimism is definitely key, because that kind of encircles and is kind of a part of, the car, so to speak, that makes it all function and roll smoothly, as well as get you to your destination, kind of thing. Just metaphorically speaking, if you can kind of decipher that. But yeah, we'll get back to the front. We've got lots of new things from the addition, as well as up and coming things that I need to document as well. Let's end the video on my talking point of, look at the birds flying around out here. My random stopping point. But just promoting nature out here on this nice sunny day. We've got goats wagging tails, making weird noises, and eating weeds. We'll have a video update soon. I think in the next couple days I'll make a new one showing a little bit up front, a couple of the new things and other stuff like that. But yeah, I kind of actually like documenting what's going on with the field a little bit, because this is really cool to me to watch kind of this transformation, this almost like drastic transformation that this has had. Granted, it's just that he didn't spray this first year any Roundup or anything like that, but it's just good timing too. We had all that rain and such like that. Bird just flew in with the goats. Had all that rain, watered this field really good. And thankfully there was already stuff growing. So it's like we minimized things, more of that water washing out. So we definitely minimized a lot of the wash from going down this hill, basically. Because where we're at, yeah, we have kind of this slant going on down to there. So I've made this video long enough. I'll have another update. Maybe I'll definitely need to make another one out here, because I always have kind of some observations and things to talk about. And that's probably what I need to make more videos of as well, is just some observations and opinions that I have too, so people can understand a little bit of the logic and what we're doing out here. So, but for now, we're gonna get some work done, and we're gonna enjoy the sunshine after all of those clouds that we've had for the last couple weeks, well, this whole month almost. So thanks everyone for watching. Hopefully my talking and video capturing it and rambling is a little bit of entertainment for everybody. all in one take. I'll say that. It's all in one take, and it's all authentic. No script in front of me, so I'm just kind of on the fly. So, oh, and there's a deer. I'll end with the deer frolicking. If I can get it in focus. Frolicking deer. Thanks, everybody.